if you're listening to this, you probably feel like if I make a commitment, this is a lifetime sentence. That's not how life works. You make a commitment all in right now, but you have to understand that as you evolve as a human being, there's going to be other opportunities in your life, and you should be open to growth.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Peter Jumrukovski on the show. Peter, welcome.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor, a pleasure, a privilege to be here, to find a new friend, and connecting.
Likewise, I'm so glad that we connected. I mean, the song that says it goes down in the DMs, it's so true, because I just sent you an Instagram message and said, hey, you seem like a cool guy. I'd love to connect. And here we are chatting. It kind of is crazy to me, but yeah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I looked at your bio, but of course, for those in the audience who may not have come across you or your podcast just yet, who is Peter?
Of course. And I'm going to touch on that, but first I want to touch on the DM thing. And as a fellow podcaster, reaching out to people, if you do it with a sincere heart, it's an amazing time we live in, because you can pretty much connect with anyone if you do it in a sincere way. If you're a little bit, if you have a good approach. So I just appreciate how you reached out to me, because I do the same thing to people all the time. And funny enough, it works, and you can connect with a lot of cool people and learn a lot of shit. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So my name is Peter Jumrukovski. I am, my blood, my heritage is Macedonian, former Yugoslavia. I was born and raised in Sweden. Grew up, my father moved to Sweden when he was 19. He met my mom about 10 years later in Macedonia, and she came to Sweden as well. So brought on in Sweden as kind of an immigrant. So had Macedonian traditions, but also assimilated pretty well to the society. My father and mother ran a local shop. Basically, you could do sports betting, you can buy magazines, cigarettes. It went on to be a post office. And me and my sister worked there since we were basically kids. I started when I was 6 years old, worked there through college. Always had money in my pocket. And, my father was my sensei. He still is to this day, my sensei and karate coach. So during these years, we worked in the afternoon, then we went to karate practice. He mentored me. He taught me about hard work, about dedication, about discipline and kindness, and all of those traits that you get as a martial artist, and specifically during karate. Mm-hmm. So I've done karate since I was 6 years old, coming up on a little bit more than 30 years now. I have my father to thank for that. I got to travel all over the world. Because of martial arts, I fell in love with Bruce Lee and Van Damme. All my walls were filled with, posters of Bruce Lee and Van Damme. I saved up money to frame them as I was 7 or 8 years old, and I framed like big posters, big original movie posters as a 10-year-old. Awesome. I became a friend with the guy across the street from our store, and he had owned a framing shop. I don't know if they exist anymore, but at that time, and he liked me. So the money I made with my parents, I spent on that. I made nunchucks in school. I told them they was, playing instruments, and the little thing was to hang them up. Then I put chains on them.
That's cool.
So I always dreamt about, LA. Manifested that into my mind, and about 30 years later, I came here. I'm in LA right now. I'm the host of the I Love Success podcast. I love to help people day to day. I work in real estate, and that's pretty much it. I'm married with Lily. I love her a lot. We had a long distance relationship for a long time. She's here now. So a lot of things in my life have not gone kind of the easy way. I'm not known for having the talent, but I'm known for having the discipline and tenacity to do the work. And now, many years later, people look at me and they see a very confident person. They see a positive person. They see a healthy person. They see somebody that accomplished a lot of things, but there's a lot more to the story. And this is something that I think we all see when we look at people that we feel are strong, but want to go out there and say that's not the case. You know, I was bullied. I was overweight. I was not really good at karate. I lost all my friends in high school. No, even before, in what do you call it before high school?
Like middle school?
In middle school, because I didn't want to drink, smoke, and party.
Right.
But
That's what everyone does back then. It's
that's
like,
what everyone does
cool
if you want to be the
kids.
cool kid, you know, Chris. So yeah, I mean, there's, like, everybody else has a story. I have one too.
I'm like, wait a second, this sounds like the movie The Karate Kid, right? It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember seeing on TV the bullies and the cool kids on the dirt bikes kicking the guy down, right? I'd like to touch on the karate thing, or karate, if I'm pronouncing it not officially, but martial arts, you've been doing it for, you said, just over 30 years. Would you say that has attributed to a lot of your success, I would imagine, because the discipline, the focus, the consistency, you probably don't expect things to happen overnight because you've been doing that thing for so long. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's the case. And the Karate Kid was actually what made me train karate, because there's a scene.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a cool scene, and there's a cool movie. And there's a scene where Mr. Miyagi talks to Daniel-san, and he says, either you do karate do yes, or you do karate do no. If you do karate do I guess so, sooner or later you're gonna get squished just like a grape walking in the middle of the road. And I
forgot about that.
Yeah, I did not forget about that scene. 30 years ago that happened, and I talked to my father and I said, from this day on, I'm gonna train karate, and that's what I've been doing. So I think I listened to a podcast with Dan Lok 2 days ago, and he talked about the billionaire's mindset. And one of the things that he said that billionaire has in their mindset is that they are willing to do something with a long-term goal. So I'm not a billionaire, but I think I have the mindset of a martial artist, is to be, you do something and you show up and everything is going to be taken care of.
Right. Doing the work. That's awesome. I wrote that down. Karate yes or karate no. I forgot about that, but that is such a huge takeaway, because so many people say maybe and like, let me see. I'm guilty of that a lot. The last few years, I've done a lot of things of like halfway in. I don't want to really commit. But the thing is, you can't do maybe. It's either yes or no. Do you want to do it? Are you going to do it? And at that point, you made up your mind and said you're going to do it. I love a lot of what you've talked about. I mean, like I mentioned to you before we hit record, I listened to some of your podcasts today, and goals and scorecard. Sounds like we have that in similarity. We're both in real estate. I'm not a karate expert. Like I mentioned on the DM, I was like, I don't have the world medalist thing, but I am on the real estate side and I have a podcast. So the discipline that you've been able to develop is pretty incredible, because most people can't stick with something for more than 5 months, it seems like these days.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about that, I think what most of us are scared of is the commitment, and I deal with that as well. And I think if you're listening to this, you probably feel like, if I make a commitment, this is a lifetime sentence.
Right.
So that's not how life works. You make a commitment all in right now, but you have to understand that as you evolve as a human being, there's going to be other opportunities in your life, and you should be open to growth. So just because you're all in on soccer or real estate, you're all in right now, but what happens further down the road, that's different. And we can talk about giving up or not giving up, being smart and things like that. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But don't give yourself the excuse of not committing just so you don't need to do the work, and you don't need to fail. You don't need to put yourself out there and being naked, because if you are out on the field, right, and not in the arena, you're gonna get punched in the face somehow.
Yeah, that's so true. You have to go all in and commit. And the thing I think is that we have so many options these days where no one wants to really commit. Even if it's a party or something, you're like, everyone hits maybe on Facebook for events, right? They're like, maybe I'm going to decide that day if I feel like going. And we approach our lives like that in many cases, where we're just like, maybe I'll try that. And then we cancel at the last minute, versus saying, I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do it, like you did with karate. And you stuck with it, right? You didn't say, maybe, let me see, I'm going to change my mind. No, like you actually committed for the long term. So you said you struggle with that too. Have you found any secrets on how to really stick to it? I think one of your recent episodes said instead of having too many goals, you had a few big ones, for example. Has that been more helpful for you to just stay focused on fewer things, but larger goals?
I think you have to go back to why you're doing things. And I listened to a podcast with Inky Johnson the other day. There's a 7-minute thing on YouTube that you guys should check out. And Chris probably going to link this in the show notes. It's just incredible how, we're usually not committed to something, or we're just doing it for ourselves, right? If there's a bigger purpose to the things in your life, then you're going to show up. Right. So just to have it as an example, I've been doing 284 podcast episodes, and for almost 4 or 5 years, I did one every single week. Now I'm human. So the last couple of months, I've been lagging because I have forgot why I'm doing this, which happens to all of us. And even though I'm super disciplined, because 284 weeks, every single fucking week, I hope I can curse here.
Yeah, go for it. You showed up.
It's hard. It's not always easy, but even me and everybody else, like at sometimes like, oh, I didn't feel like it anymore. And then I took a break. And that's fine. Now you got to ask yourself, okay, why did I take a break? And do I really want to come back? And now when we're here talking, this is what I love. I love talking to people, connecting with people, but you get busy with life, right, Chris? Yeah. Especially in real estate, right? You get busy with other people's feelings and other people's, and then you're like, no, I don't have time for this. And then life happens. I don't have time to take that vacation. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to call my father. I don't have time to go out with my girlfriend. And then you die. It's harsh, but it's true. Yeah. Look at regrets. Like most of all people have regrets, but if you take time to do the things that really matters, you're going to have less of them.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I mean, we have to make time for those things. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I had told my podcast audience, I started doing a lot more solo episodes because I felt like I was doing too many random interviews of people who were just trying to tell me about their book. It got very like they're doing the same circuit and they're going on 50 different podcasts. Yeah. But like you mentioned, when I'm talking to you here, I'm like, man, this is what I was missing, because I was getting burnt out on my show. Like, I feel like I'm just creating shitty content for the sake.
You have to do it, and then you have to get another guest, and I understand that. And that's why with life and just being an entrepreneur, you get to set the rules. I set the rules that I'm going to do 1 episode a week, but I can change those rules
anytime,
as long as it's congruent with who I am and connecting with the people I'm supposed to be connecting, instead of just chasing another episode. So that's what I'm regrouping now. And I think it sounds like you're doing that yourself. And Chris, people want to hear more of you too. I noticed that a lot of my solo episodes actually have more downloads because people are curious about me. They're coming to the show because they like me. Yeah. They don't always want to hear another guest. Sometimes they want to hear me as well. Absolutely. That's the realization that I had. But I mean, kind of going back to this conversation, I'm just enjoying this. I'm going to learn something new. Like I always take notes when I talk to someone, and I'm like, damn, I think I've only done 1 or 2 interviews all year, and everything else has been solo episodes. But now, like you mentioned, I'm remembering why I started this, because I love learning. I love growing. I love success. I like the name of your show, but also connecting with other like-minded people across the world. Because I mean, when you said you had the scorecard thing, or like I heard the episode, I'm like, holy crap, this is like my twin who is a black belt in karate. I know. We even look a little bit the same. Yeah, like black hair, maybe the similar age. I don't know. But it's just cool from another mother. And you said your background, you were kind of mixed, right? Were your parents from 2 Macedonia? Different... Yeah. They're both from Macedonia? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm half Indian and half Mexican, and I was born in the States. Cool. So I'm like a little mix too. That's cool. That's cool, Chris. Yeah, so I never felt like I mean, not about this isn't about me, but like kind of growing up too, I just felt out of place. Like I had friends that were one race or another, a lot of like white friends that I had. My mom didn't know about homecoming in high school. I was like, she's like, what's homecoming, right? Yeah. I don't know if you know about all the dances and like the mums and stuff they have in Texas. I had to learn. She had to ask all my friends' parents what was going on. But anyway, back to you though. So I wrote down Inky Johnson. I got to check that out because I've heard Inky Johnson a few times. I don't know if I
have seen any videos. I probably heard it in motivational clips.
Yeah.
So you're in real estate. How long have you been in the real estate game? Are you mostly an agent? Do you do some investing? Can you talk a little bit
I'm
about
an
that?
agent. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm agent. I've been agenting for about 3 years now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar timeline as well. I just came up. I was
Oh,
telling you,
nice.
man, you've been
That's
following
crazy.
me and copying my stuff.
That's
I love
crazy.
it. I love it. So what have been some of the challenges you've seen in real estate that translate to like your lessons in karate and stuff? Deals that fall through, clients that show an ugly side that you didn't know, when money's involved. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've overcome and like how you've maybe grown as a professional?
I think if you go back to the basics from martial arts, you're gonna have a very good life, and it translates to everything. Uh, Part of, as you know, being in real estate, you're helping people, and it's big decisions, big money. So there's going to be a lot of emotions involved, kind of similar like being in a fight, but here I would kind of say it's more like a defensive fight, because in a way you're helping these people, but you also have to dodge, some of the things, and kind of block and take it
Things that
back to
come
them
up.
so they understand what's going on. And there's a different side which have other emotions. So it's about dealing with calmness in a storm. And I think that's very similar to fighting and being a martial artist. I've had a lot of, help from that. Also growing tremendously right now, because I'm in a lot of high pressure, high stakes deals. And that has been challenging for me, even though I have a very strong mindset, and I'm a martial artist. I'm also human. So it happens, but I always go back to regrouping and go back to the breathing, because life is breathing. And
yeah,
a lot of times we complicate things, but no matter how stressed you are, if you take a deep breath,
you feel better.
it's better, right?
Yeah.
And if you write down your problems and look at them objectively, usually they're not that bad.
I love that. That's so true. And I mentioned, I go on hikes a lot. I live in Denver in Colorado, right? I'm sure you do too over in LA. And when you're out there and you're just kind of far away from the city, you can see the hustle and bustle from far away, and you're in nature and you see some butterflies and stuff in the springtime, like we were talking about. You forget about a lot of those problems. You're like, those things that I'm thinking are such big deals are really nothing. And it kind of goes back to that idea of life is shorter than we realize. Why are we worrying about stupid things that really don't matter? Like tomorrow's not promised. We should just enjoy the present moment. And it all goes back to, as basic as that sounds, breath. We just take it for granted because we don't pay attention, right? We don't think about breathing or our heart beating. It just happens automatically. But really that is the foundation to get centered and regroup.
I agree. And I read a book from Paulo Coelho. I don't remember the name of the book, but
is it The Alchemist? That's the
it
one
was
I know
not The
from him.
Alchemist. I read that book too, and that's a really good book. This was one of his other books, and he was telling the story of somebody who had a lot of problems. And the kind of the guidance was like, sometimes we're like, here, we think our problems is right in front of our face.
Yeah.
But once you look up to the sky and like kind of imagine like how big the world is, and you see how small your problem is, there's so much more beauty. Like a lot of people out there now, they haven't even looked up to the sky today.
So true.
They haven't looked somebody in the eye at their coffee shop and say, hey, how are you? Because you were so busy with, dealing with shit that we forget the simplest things that makes us happy.
Yeah. I mentioned to you before we hit record, like I kind of felt like I knew you because I'm doing a better job of researching my guests and listening to some episodes. And in one of your recent podcasts that I was listening to, I think you were on a trip and you were pausing, and I loved how you did it. Cause I'm like, man, your podcast is like genuine. You're just talking through things, and you stopped to notice that there were 3 or 4 generations of people who were walking home from school, right? Like the grandma, maybe the great grandma too. Everyone was there. And that's stuff that you don't really see in the US. Like, everyone's driving or buses, and parents are both working sometimes. And so I love how you just stopped to notice, like that just made me so happy to see, is what you were saying, that family spending time together on the way home from school. It might be the culture here sometimes, like work, hustle, all that stuff, grind. We get away from the basics of, man, it's beautiful outside, or like, let me take the dog on a walk and look at this flower, right? It just
Yeah.
sounds like, wait, who has the time for that? We got stuff to do, I think is the mindset of our culture a lot of times.
Yeah, and this is something that I struggle with as well, because I'm a person who sets very high goals, and I
Like
have,
a go-getter.
yeah, I'm a go-getter and have very high expectations of myself, but the whole goal is to enjoy.
Yeah.
The whole goal is to be helpful and make other people happy and yourself. So what why is it so important to always, strive for more and do better, rush and forget, you know, to kiss your wife in the hallway? Like, a lot of people forget that shit. It's the
Yeah.
simplest thing, because you're looking at an email from somebody at work pissed off at you
And you forget.
in your phone while walking to the bathroom, texting while you're taking a shit. It's, if we look at these things objectively, like, just imagine, like, when we watch movies from, like, people who lived 1,000 years ago and we wonder what they're doing. Just imagine if they would see us now. They're like, what the fuck are these people doing?
Texting and shitting. And
But why is it so important to respond to somebody that second? Why
right.
why have we made it so important? I don't think that's part of success, but we believe, and especially being in real estate, we believe that you need to respond that second. And I don't believe that. I do it myself, and I'm working on this, because I'm realizing this is not a good path of life.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And also, if you are a real badass, you don't do that. You have control over yourself and your environment.
Yeah. I think it's just impulsive, because I think back to before we had phones and stuff. I saw a picture on Instagram about, few people will understand this. And it was 3 kids on their bikes in the neighborhood. Yeah. Before there was anything, it was just water balloon fights and hanging out with friends. There weren't phones. You had to call someone's house and ask their mom if you could talk to your friend. Remember that?
I know. I do remember that.
Changed, man. Things have changed, because now everyone's got a tablet. And it's funny because we get trained. I mean, we got a bunch of, I'm engaged, I'm getting married this year. And
congrats, Chris.
Thank you. I'm catching up to you, right? We're like
last year.
You're married.
Yeah. Wow. Now. That's awesome.
But we have a bunch of random gifts that people shipped to us for the bridal shower. Yeah. And here's an example of like the impulse. I let the gifts sit here for 3 or 4 days because my fiance was in Houston. She went to go visit family and friends. Yeah. I didn't open the boxes. I don't care about what's in the boxes. Like I didn't order it. It's not mine, not my business. But she was hungry and we were going to go eat. She just came back into town yesterday. She's like trained to open the boxes immediately when she gets them. And I'm like, I thought you said you were hungry. Like, why don't we open the boxes after we eat? Because I'm hungry too. But that's how I feel like where I'm going with that example is we get a text and we feel like, well, I just saw it, so I need to reply. Instead of saying, no, leave the boxes or the texts for later. That takes discipline to see your phone ring and intentionally put it away for later because you're focused on something else. But most people don't think like that. They're just like, oh my gosh, I got a message, I have to reply, right? Real estate's even worse.
Yeah, it's hard. And I'm working on that because I've realized that I have a set of, standards and rules for my life that I want to live by.
Yep.
That I in a way sometimes forget. And that's why we need to get back to the basics and realize, okay, what does it take to live a good life?
Right.
Show up.
It varies, right? Your definition may be different than mine and someone else's. And like, that's one thing, that example, I'm like, let's focus on things first. You're hungry, let's eat. Don't open the boxes yet. But her priority was, I want to know what's in the boxes. So it's different for everyone. But I think if you're conscious, if you're self-aware, like you and I setting these rules for ourselves, we may do things that other people are like, that's weird. Why are you not texting back? You just got a message, but you are thinking differently. Like, I'm trying to get better at not replying to everything immediately.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a work in progress for sure.
So are there any other like rules that you follow for yourself? And like, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, wow, time just flying by on our conversation. But are there any rules that you have for yourself similar to that? Like not just instantly replying to people?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I'm working on. Honestly, I am very good at replying right away. And that's something that has given me a lot of, benefits, but also it is taking away some other things. So I think that has to be something that's something that I'm working on. But as far as being a martial artist, one of the things that is very important to me is, it's something, if you're a bushi, that's a warrior in Japanese, and bushido is the way of the warrior. So a warrior, if you say something, it's like it's already done.
And I love that.
This is something that comes also when I see my father. He doesn't have to text or call. I can talk to him and say, let's meet there at 2 p.m. in 2 years. I never have to talk to him in 2 years. He's going to be there. And I think that's something that, we cool. laugh, but it's something that's very beautiful.
Because most people aren't going to do that.
Yeah. First of all, I can't commit. And then I got to put a calendar invite. It's a lot of things. But the real truth of the matter is, if you can commit to be the person that when you say something, it's like it's already done. Then there's no need for promises. There's no need for follow-up. It's decided. And if something is decided, then you show up for yourself long after the excitement for that thing is gone. So I think a lot of people are very excited about things. They say a lot of things, but the excitement usually goes away very quickly. Yeah. But to keep showing up for yourself long after that, and long before the results are there, that's something that takes character, something that takes discipline, something that takes self-love. And that's something that I'm working on, every day, to have the tools to become that person. Mm-hmm. And it also has given me a lot of, perks in my life because of that.
100%. I love that. I wrote that down. Bushido. It's already done.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't commit, like we talked about earlier, where they don't want to say that because they're like, let me see what I have going on first. And then really they kind of weigh their options. I'd rather go to this party instead of that event because this thing just popped up and it makes more sense for me. And it just makes it a lot harder. I don't know if you ever try to coordinate things, but I sometimes try to coordinate Zoom calls and Clubhouse calls and different meetings. And I'm like, damn, like no one's showing up. What's going on? You guys all told me you were going to be here. And then all of a sudden it's not a priority for people. So it's never fun trying to bring people together because a lot of them don't live by that it's already done mindset, which again, I want to go back to the karate thing because I feel like that probably really helped a lot. I mean, I started working out when I was 13 or 14, awesome. Lifting weights, push-ups, I have this funny picture of me flexing. It's like the tiny little ant bicep.
I love it.
I'm like, Mom, please throw this away. I don't want this to be in the album. But I feel like those that I know who started exercising or doing sports at a young age, they're so disciplined because they had to be. You had to eat right. You had to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to practice sometimes, or take a bus to go to another city, right? To go compete. Yeah. The discipline bleeds into areas of your life outside of just the fitness, right? Like you can say you're going to wake up at a time tomorrow and it's already done. I'm setting my alarm for 4 a.m. and I'm not going to hit snooze, right? A lot of people can't do that.
I encourage everyone to be committed to something. And if you can start with that early on in life, it doesn't mean that you have to be the best at something.
Right.
What it means is that you keep showing up for yourself and that you hit yourself on the nose and then you go back and do it again and again and again, because you learn so much by doing that. And it gives you a comfort level in life to do things wholeheartedly and to stand for something. And that's what martial art has given me. If I say something, usually it's a longer commitment. For example, when I said I'm going to start a podcast, people were laughing. I said I'm going to write a book, people were laughing. But for me, when I say something, it's like it's already done. So even if I don't know shit about doing that, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to stand by my commitment long after the excitement is gone.
Yeah. I remember a friend, we started playing the drums. This is like another example. I played the drums for years. We both started playing at the same time, and he was pretty good. I was pretty good. And it was always a little bit of competition, but it fizzled out for him. Like most things, you're excited at the beginning. I want to go back to that part that you mentioned. Most people are so excited to pick up something, to get good at drums or guitar, but how long are they going to stay committed and excited? I remember him telling me something because I got way better than him because I had just stuck it out for years after he had given it up. And he's like, you know what, Chris, you're like one of the most consistent people that I know. And I really just internalized that, where I'm like, dude, that is going to be my characteristic. Like I am consistent. So similar to you. And I remember the first post when I'm like on LinkedIn, I'm going to start a podcast. I knew I'm going to be in it for 3+ years and then we'll see how it goes. Right.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, let's see if I don't get 50,000 downloads in 3 months, I'm going to quit. No, it was just, it's already done. I'm committing for the long haul. So I love that you have that mindset about you too. How did you really work on that? Because there's probably people in the audience who are like, man, I wish I had that. I can't do it. I can't commit. Do you have any tips for how you've worked through that? I know you said you're working on some stuff, but would love to see if we can help the audience.
Yeah, I think you got to just make a decision on something in life. I made a decision to go after karate and to train karate, and that was part of my life. And I didn't think twice. And during the years, I've always met people asking me, do you still train karate? Do you still train karate? Yeah. It's like, do you still brush your teeth? It's part of it, So I think in life, you have to make some type of commitments if you want to have a good life, and we see people, they're changing partners all their time. They're changing everything all the time. They change as soon as something goes wrong at one workplace, they go into the next workplace and they're looking to extract something instead of giving something. So I would just give the advice, stick to something and just give as much as you can. And then on that path, other doors will open.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's like the biggest takeaway right there is just expect it to take some time and stick with it long enough. Yeah. I think a lot of people probably struggle because in today's instant gratification society, we expect things to come to us very quickly, overnight shipping, Netflix on demand. So working on something for more than 6 months seems like, oh my gosh, I better see results, right? If I don't see results, then I'm going to quit. But we know real estate, podcasting, man, I feel like it took 2 years to really be like, okay, I see some numbers. I see some numbers changing on my my scorecards.
Yeah. No, I think everything that is worthwhile
takes time.
Usually takes time. It doesn't always have to be that way, but you will definitely appreciate it more if it takes a little bit of time, if you have a couple of challenges. That's why we love movies, and most of them are going through the hero's journey. So we want to see the challenges. We want to have the challenges in our own life, and we want to be able to deal with them because that's how we grow. I mean, I've been sitting in, I remember we were 2008. It was the year of the world championships in karate, and it was supposed to be in Tokyo, Japan. So every fighter's dream is to, if you do karate, to compete in Nippon Budokan, which is the most famous arena for karate at a world championship. That's something that everybody dreams of. A couple of months before, I think it was 6 or 7 months before, we had one of the qualifying tournaments in France. I got my ass kicked in 30 seconds. I was so disappointed with myself. I remember sitting in the hotel room there in Paris, just crying and just thinking like, what have I done? And at the same night, we were supposed to have an evaluation with our coaches. And I was like, I'm not even going to go. What's there to evaluate? I got my ass kicked. Yeah. And what happened that time was incredible because they told me, we believe in you. And this, just go back to what you did that made karate, that made it good for you. And what happened after that was very simple. And if you're in a situation now where you used to be good at something, but you're in a down slope or there's challenges, go back to why you started doing it. And I started doing karate because I loved it. And I went back to having fun, and the next competition went better and better. And I eventually got selected because they believed in me and they lifted me up, which we all need. When we're down, we need somebody to lift us up, right? But also to go back to having fun. It's easy when things are getting too serious that we forget to have fun. And when we don't have fun, the results is actually less because we try to hold on to everything instead of relaxing.
Yeah. And I think that's the tough thing with like high performers is that I've been watching The Last Dance again. I don't know if you ever saw that with Michael Jordan, and
a little bit. Yeah.
No matter how good it wasn't good enough because, when you're pushing yourself that much, nothing ever seems good. And you may have a bunch of great things, like 8 out of 10 things might've been awesome, but you're focusing on the two things that went wrong or that you could have done better. So we are often our worst critic, and that helps us push ourselves. But at the same time, it also can pull us away from having fun. You're like, I don't have time to have fun. I'm an adult. I've got bills to pay. I've got to bring in the income. I have to go help clients and make money and close deals. So you can forget about the fun sometimes, right? But that, ironically, the fun is how you actually do better in all areas of life, right? Would you say that's true?
In a way, yes. So I study success. My podcast is called the I Love Success podcast. I've talked to almost 300 people that are at the best level in their field in life. And performance and success are two different things. So when we say success, what we usually mean is performance, because we look at somebody like Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Usain Bolt or Lyoto Machida or whatever, and we look at them as successful. That is not always the case. They have performed very well in a specific field. But to be successful, in my mind and my definition, is to be happy with yourself, right? And enjoy what you're doing. So the question comes here, can you do both of those? I think you can, but you can also perform very well and be shitty with yourself and be very hard on yourself. Usually that works pretty damn well as far as performance. But a lot of these people are also very lonely people, and they also sacrifice everything else in their life. So you gotta, like, if you're listening to this, you gotta figure out, like, what am I gonna stand for? What are my key values? And if family is one of your key values, then let's say you prepare for a competition, you can be away for 3 months, but then why are you doing this? Because you want to do something good for your family. Don't forget that part. And I think it's easy for us to forget that. I'm a victim of that myself sometimes. But truly being successful is having a balance of all the important things in life, not only financials, not only performance. It's, family, it's friends, it's traveling, it's health, it is work. So having all that shit together and enjoying life, that is something that is not easy to do, but it's fucking amazing if you can strive for that.
Absolutely. I forget if I read this in a book or heard it on a podcast, but someone was talking about, it's like we're juggling all these balls and work, there's personal goals and fitness and all of that, family. Most of them are rubber balls, but like your health is glass, health and family, right? If you drop that one and you shatter it, there's no point of having financial success and all those other things, because everything else is a rubber ball. Your performance, like you said, if you're in a valley, if your numbers are bad, if you're not making that much money, you can drop the rubber ball, that can bounce back off the ground. But if it's a glass ball, your health, you let that go, you let your family go, everything falls apart, that's going to shatter. So that's a really good example for anyone who's like, how do I manage it all? Remember which ones in your life are glass and which ones are rubber.
And you have to define that. You have to write that stuff down. You have to think about that. And you have to put your phone down and Netflix down for a little bit to actually ask yourself these questions, because this is what's going to make your life extraordinary, or, a life that you're living by default.
Yeah. And so many people are just kind of like plugged into the matrix, right? They're just go to work, get a paycheck, watch Netflix, go to the party on Saturday, go to a happy hour. And they never stop to think about, what do I really want in my life? Like, what are the things that I value? What can I commit to? What am I passionate about? And so once you turn off Netflix and you spend 20, 30 minutes just journaling and writing it all down, that's where you can see true transformation. Cause I'm like, man, we only have one life, and I don't want to die and be like, man, all I ever did was work at this job and get a normal paycheck, and that's it. Like, no, I want to do everything. I want to accomplish. I want to be like Michael Jordan was, and like, all these people at their prime. How do we do it? Well, you have to start off by being very intentional and tracking your goals, like a scorecard. Look at that. We both do that too. And we model success because we're really standing on the shoulders of giants. Have you heard that phrase where we're all just modeling who it is that we want to be like, who we look up to, things that other people have done? We're implementing those things in our lives. so that we don't have to recreate the wheel and figure it all out from scratch.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And thinking about your life is something of the most important things you can do. Investing time in seeing what you're doing well and what you're not doing so well.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best investment you can do.
100%. I mean, just spending time thinking. So many people don't do that. Their phone, they're texting, they're opening the packages right away. They're running out the door. How often do you spend time thinking? Do you have like a Sunday reflection time, one hour a week, or is there a certain thing that you do in your schedule to create space and time for thinking?
I try to think a lot every day. I think my best time thinking is the morning. So usually when I wake up before I go to the gym, I spend some time meditating, thinking about things. And then, when I'm driving, I like thinking about things. It's a good time for me to, kind of start, actually thinking. And then I like to reset and look at my notes, once a week and kind of see where I'm at in life and see what adjustments I need to make as well.
Cool. So when you're thinking, is there anything in particular? Do you have a framework for like, okay, this is what I'm working on this week. This is what I've done. This is what I need to do. This can be pushed to next week. Or is it just, do you have a strategy for it? Or are you just thinking about everything that you're currently focused on?
I have my goals for the year, and most of the time that's what I'm thinking about, and see like where am I at? What have I done well? How do I need to adjust? I also think about my relationships. What am I doing well? What do I need to do better?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my health as well. How do I feel? Am I energized? Do I have, because, energy is everything in life, as most of us know. And if you're listening to this and you're feel like you don't have energy, it's probably because you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating enough, and you don't have something that really motivates you or something that you really want to work towards. Because if you have all those things, you're gonna have more energy. You're gonna have more energy. So I always look at that. Where's my energy level? Because I know when I have good energy, I can accomplish a lot of things.
Yep.
And those are the things that I'm contemplating about.
That's really cool. Like the energy management piece, that's another thing. I mean, there's so many variables. I've been getting very nerdy about all this stuff, like following Dave Asprey, people who are talking about the right type of coffee, MCT oil, blue light blocking glasses, going to sleep at a certain time, keeping the mattress or the room cold. All of those things really give you an edge, because if you're sleeping better, you're eating the proper fuel, you're exercising. I mean, you're going to show up way better than the person who's eating junk food, getting 3 hours of sleep a night, or staying out too late. It's a night and day difference, right? We all have felt hungover before, and we've all felt how amazing it feels when we sleep in and we're a little jet lagged, but like we slept good when we go on a trip. And there's a night and day difference, right?
I agree. And a lot of times we overcomplicate it, it's nice to dig deep, and I love that, trying new things as well. But if you're listening to this and you're like overweight and you don't have energy, and there's two things, like eat a little bit more greens and sleep a little bit more and go to the gym a little bit more, and
drink
you're gonna see the result. So it's you gotta start somewhere, and life is not that complicated. We tend to complicate things. It's like the body is pretty smart, it knows what it wants, but we're going against that. That's the problem.
So true. Well, we've talked about a lot of great stuff here, Peter. I mean, I love it. I mean, I listening to your podcast, having you on the show, sounds like we have a lot in common, and we kind of think similarly. But like you said, when you're interviewing so many successful people, you're getting access to the morning routines, the rituals of the most successful people at the highest levels. Is there anything else that you've really taken away from those calls with those top performers? Anything that you've implemented yourself that we missed today?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, I feel like, I don't know if
we could talk forever.
Do you know Highlander, the movie Highlander?
I don't know if I've seen it. It sounds familiar. Which one is that?
It was a show when I was a kid called Highlander. And apparently when he killed somebody, he cut away their head and he got all their knowledge to himself. So that's how I feel with a podcast, basically. I get to sit down, ask any question I want, and it downloads into my mind and body. So I've changed so much. I don't even know exactly what the things are. I can only say, what I've learned is that if you want to do something, it has to come from your inner drive to do something good in the world.
Yeah.
That I think that's the only thing, you don't have to, it can't be something just for yourself. It has to be that inner drive. Why is this important that I put this out in the world? And we see that some of the most successful people, they have this drive that comes from somewhere, because they are so dedicated to this purpose. And it's much more than money. It's much more than themselves. And it just transpires to something beautiful in this world. And if you're listening to this and you might say, oh, that's all sounds good, but I don't have that. I think, yes, you do have that. You just need to find what that is. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's, somebody you care about, whatever it is, find that. And don't wait until you find it. You have to start. Like, you have to start with something. Even if you work at McDonald's, I'm not saying that's a bad job, but let's say if you work at McDonald's, but aspire to own your own, marketing company. Like, you can't go to McDonald's and be shitty at work and expect yourself to be a business owner in 5 years, and you're going to do the work when you get that opportunity. Life doesn't work that way.
It's so good.
Just show up, when people are not seeing you, and just believe in yourself, and, keep on walking, like Bruce Lee would say, and things will happen.
Man, that's such good advice, because you can't expect to do the work down the road if you're not doing it now. You can't expect the results of other people who have been down that path, right? You kind of have to pay your dues in a way, no matter what it is that you're doing now. So I really love that advice, especially in today's society. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'm going to work hard when I get there, when I'm the CEO of a marketing company. No. You got to do that when you're making the French fries right now too. If that's what you're doing, make the best damn French fries that you can, Yes. So thank you so much, Peter, for all of this great nuggets. So what's one takeaway that you'd like for someone to go implement today before we let them know where to find you? Like, if someone were to just take one little tidbit from today, what would you suggest?
Sit down and ask yourself, what do I stand for? What's important to me? What do I love? Who do I love? And what is the human experience going to look like for me? And just take time, looking at how you want your life to become, and draw that picture, write that down, and then see, where's the gap? Because a lot of times we look at, I meet a lot of people. Yeah, you have a lovely wife. I would love to have a nice wife. Yeah. That's not the question you should ask yourself. The question is like, who do I need to become in order to attract this in my life?
Yes.
And if you become that person that attracts those things in your life, it will come, not right away, but eventually it will come, because you are that person that attracts that. We see people that have everything we want, and we want that, but we don't want to do the work that they have done. Then you don't want that. Then you want the results, but then there's something else better for you that you need to be focusing on. And just to kind of touch on what we said earlier on, studying successful people, I actually sometimes want you, like, if you're listening to this, don't always study the super successful people, because things change when life gets better and you get more relaxed, which is awesome. We all do that, and that's part of life. But if you really want to rise, look at people that are on the rise. Maybe go to a college football game or a basketball game and see how do they, or go to a practice, go to the gym and see how they are training.
Yeah.
Because they have some of the best routines and the will that you can, but you very, very rarely can find that in the person that is already on the top, because they don't need to do that. And that's totally okay. You have to rise. And if you want to rise, look at the people that do rise.
I love that, because you're right. When we're looking at the people all the way at the top, it's going to be a little different. And sometimes they've been there so long that they don't remember exactly, they've been doing it 20 plus years. They don't remember how it was to be at the very bottom and just start off. So it can just seem like such a difference, they don't understand what I'm going through. And things have changed in the last 20 years. We just talked about it before, cell phones and not being able to ride your bike in the neighborhood like most kids, or calling people's parents to talk to your friend. Now it's like you text your friend in third grade and you both have phones. It's a different world that we live in. So looking at what are successful people who are on the rise doing, that is a hack, because it's almost like don't do as I say, do as I do, or something. There's a quote, something like that. Watch what people are doing, because they may be telling you something that is their secret to success, but if they're doing something else, like that's what they're doing that is making them successful. Therefore, you should model those actions and those activities. So Peter, where can people go to learn more about you, to follow you, to listen to your podcast? What's the best place to send them to? And I can link that all in the show notes.
Awesome. I mean, you can just Google Peter Jumrukovski. Google will help you spell my name. Or you just look for the I Love Success podcast wherever you listen to your shows. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, iTunes. Cool. I think we're pretty much everywhere. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for showing up for yourself. Please show up for Chris as well. Share this episode with somebody that needs to hear this message. We love you guys, and I want to see your progress. Reach out to me and Chris and tell us how things are going and progressing, because that's part of why we're doing this, in order to get some feedback as well.
100%. Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone who is listening. Be sure to tag us in this and let us know if you have any questions or anything. We're both here to help. And thank you once again, Peter. It's been an awesome conversation.
Thanks, Chris.